Welcome to Pyramid Times channel. We have wonderful guest with us, Jennifer K.Hill.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
And also you have provided on giving also the information that God is our supply, why we should keep 10% aside. Can you speak on that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So when there's actually, I can pull it up for you. I would love to read it to you. It's a Kabbalistic tool, and it ties into what Michael Beckwith says as well. It's called Silent Partner. So in Kabbalah, there's something called the 72 Names of God. So I'll pull it up, Silent Partner. There we go. 72 Names of God. So I don't know if the viewers will be able to see it, but it looks like that. You can Google it. It's free to pull up online. And I love that so here's what it says. It says, everyone who comes into this world must choose a silent partner, the dark force or the light of the creator. Take your pick. There are two kinds of wealth, spiritual and physical. How these spiritual and material assets get divvied up depend on which silent partner we choose. After all, every partner wants a piece of the action. If we choose the dark force as our silent partner, it will allow us to keep 100% of our material wealth, but it demands 90% of our spiritual light, of which it then tithes 10% back to us in the form of momentary instant gratification. The dark force then uses the remaining 90% of the light to strengthen itself and to wreak havoc in the world and in our personal lives. If we choose the light as our silent partner, we will keep 100% of the light and 90% of our physical wealth. All we must do is tithe 10% back to the light in the form of charity. The concept of tithing, giving away 10% of our earnings, is also designed to remove the dark force's influence from our lives. If the negative force remains attached to our financial sustenance, eventually its influence will wither away our good fortune. Tithing 10% of our income does not diminish our well-being. On the contrary, it creates greater prosperity and joy. So much like what Michael Beckwith taught me about saying God is the source of my supply, either I think egotistically that, oh, I'm so smart and I'm creating great companies, so therefore I'm wealthy and it's all mine. It's the idea, honestly, of holding on to something. If we hold on to anything and we say it's ours, it causes us pain and suffering. I think that's a famous Buddhist philosophy. And when we let go of things, whether it's letting go of our money, letting go of physical things that we think matter to us, that's where we have freedom and power, because all we're doing is we're expanding our capacity to receive more.
Yes, it is important to release the intent and let go. Then only universe can give back. If we are holding on to intent, universe, we don't allow universe to work for us, basically.
Yeah,
that
we
is
just
what.
I mean, literally, here's the funny thing, Veena. Can I let you in on a secret I don't share with a lot of people?
Yes, definitely.
So have you ever heard of a pendulum?
Yes.
So I like to use any sort of necklace with a point. You can even use your mala beads. So see how this has a stone? And you can let it point to things. So I've actually allowed my pendulum to choose where I eat, to choose where I travel. So one day I was going to be in Europe, and I'm very lucky. I used to go to Europe every September. I'm living in Paris at the moment. And I had laid my pendulum like this on top of a map. And the map was all over Europe because I knew I was going to be somewhere in Europe. And I said, pendulum, where would you like me to go, God? So you're basically asking God to kind of help you through a stone. God, where would you like me to go? And my pendulum, Veena, started swinging wildly towards Paris. I kid you not, this is going to sound terrible. I was like, I don't want to go to Paris. I've been to Paris. I was like, why is it telling me to go to Paris? But I trusted source. I'm like, okay, I did it 5 times, and every time the thing swung wildly towards Paris. I'm like, fine, I'll go to Paris. So this was one night only. I was going to be in this part of Europe. So I booked my hotel, and I'm like, okay, is there something going on? I Googled to see if there's special events happening in Paris. Nothing. There's nothing special happening in Paris on this one night. So there's one person who I happen to know who lived in Paris named Princess Catherine. She's Distigliano. She hosts a series of balls for charity that I go to every other year. And I emailed Catherine. We had never sat down, and aside from the balls and the parties that I would attend of hers, I had never once sat and had coffee. I said, Catherine, I'm going to be in Paris for one night only. Would you like to meet me for a glass of tea or wine or something? And she's so funny. She said, my darling, it would be lovely to see you for a glass of wine. Please let me know the day and the time and what your hotel is. So I email it all to her. I forget about it. I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I'll see Catherine. So 2 days before I'm supposed to go to Paris, Vina, I get an email from Catherine. My darling, you must forgive me. I did not see this happening, but you see, I double booked myself for the eve of your arrival. There is a party that happens only once every 2 years in Paris on Via Montaigne. Would you mind terribly being my guest at this party in lieu of us meeting at your hotel? And Vina, it was the most magical night of my life. I still have friends that I met from Brazil, from Paris, from all around the world. And I literally got off the train, dropped my bags at the hotel, met up with Catherine and 10 of her friends. We went from one party to another in Paris. It is to this day one of the most epic nights I'd ever had. But had I not just had perfect certainty and trust that I was being guided, then I would have never in my life chosen to go to Paris on that night.
It's very wonderful. It's in fact mind-blowing, the experience you shared.
That's trust. You gotta trust. I mean, this is the fun part is I trust everything, even every day. Like I'm supposed to go to Portugal in the next week or two, and I meditate every day. I'm like, Creator, would you like me to go to Portugal today? Would you like me to go to Portugal tomorrow? Reveal to me what day you want to go. Because I know whatever my ego has planned is crap compared to whatever the universe has planned. So that's why I trust with perfect certainty that I'm always going to be divinely guided in right timing to wherever I need to be.
That's so wonderful, Jennifer. And one more thing you have discussed in the book is about words. How impeccable our words should be, maybe in our communication with our own selves, or it could be communication with the universe or others, it could be. And you also mentioned that our words create our world. Yeah, can you speak on that, please?
I got that quote, our words create our world, from Landmark Worldwide. I highly recommend Landmark. That was one of the catalysts for my spiritual growth and transformation. I think I was 22 or 23 years old when I did that. And when you understand, Vina, that, and it's funny because it's a mixture of Landmark and Kabbalah and Michael Beckwith. Michael said in a sermon I heard him say, you can go to agapelive.com and listen for free every Sunday or find it on Facebook. But it was about a month ago, and he said, I want you to imagine that every word you're saying is a request to the universe. So if you're saying to the universe, it's hard, I can't, it's not fair, you are getting that back tenfold because the universe gives you exactly what you want. And it was funny, I was doing another interview with an amazing Reverend Reg recently. And I shared with her in the interview, years ago, my sister had moved to South Africa and she had her first baby, my nephew. And I wanted to go there and visit her and my nephew. Now it is a 30-hour flight from Los Angeles, where I used to live, to Durban, where my sister was living. And I knew, Vina, that I wanted more than anything. I was like, okay, if I'm going to travel 30 hours, I want to fly business class. And I had only flown business class maybe once before at that point. And I want to do it on Emirates, because we've all heard like Emirates business class, ooh, it's the best, right? So I started having this conversation. Now, I could have very easily said, it's hard, I can't, I'll never be able to fly Emirates business class. I was a young entrepreneur at the time. I was under the age of 30. I had no capital for my company, and it was $10,000 to fly business class. So all of those, we have all these reasons in our life, right? I can't, it's too hard, it's too expensive, I'll never be able to get that money, etc. I could have easily had those conversations. However, because I knew the power of our words from all the teachers I'd worked with, I had one conversation every day about it. And at least once a day, I would say, I don't know how, but I am 100% committed that I am going to fly Emirates business class to South Africa and back. And if need be, the universe will provide me with $10,000 in an unexpected way, or a better, cheaper solution will appear to me. And I said that sentence. All it was one sentence that I would say at least once a day to somebody in conversation. A month before I was supposed to fly, Vina, the whole trip was planned. I mean, it was 3 weeks in South Africa, everything, hotels, all planned, except my airfare. I get an email that should have gone to my junk mail. That email said, oh, hi, this is Alaskan Airlines. We just partnered with Emirates. And I got chills all up and down my body. I said, this is impossible. I called Alaskan Airlines. I said, hi, I'm a member. I have a few points with you. I saw you just partnered with Emirates. I would love to go to South Africa. Any chance they fly there? How much would it be? Do I have any points? Do you want to know how much it costs, Fina, for me to fly business class,
Yes,
LA to Dubai, Dubai to Durban, Durban back to Dubai, and all the way back? Guess how much?
maybe some 5,000.
120 US dollars.
Wow.
So this is why I share with people these stories. So look at your life. And this is why you want to have committed listeners. I have so many wonderful friends and I surround myself. If somebody hears me say something I'm not committed to, like God forbid, we all lose our awareness and our consciousness. There might be times where I might accidentally say, oh, it's hard, or I start complaining. And my friends and the people in my life will hold me to a higher account and say, Jen, that's not what you're committed to. I invite you to do the same thing. Find people who listen to you, listen for your highest and best good, and ask them, and even notice and start to listen to the words that you say to yourself, and notice what words you're saying. What are you saying? What's one line you say every day that you're not committed to? Oh, I'm never going to find the love of my life. There are no good guys out there. All women are selfish. Whatever the story is, whatever that one line is you're repeating, see if number one, you can identify that line. And number two, ask yourself, what would I like to have instead? What would I love? What would light me up? And then transform that to, I don't know how, but in 67 days, I'm going to be with the love of my life and my soulmate. And that person is going to appear to me in the most miraculous way. Whatever it is you want. I have done this for buying and selling homes, for the company I sold, for writing books. It's all made up. Everything is made up. Deepak Chopra and I just did an interview with Don Hoffman, a 10-part series called Conversations at the Intersection of Cutting Edge Science and Spirituality. And the whole conversation we had was how science and spirituality both agree that consciousness is the foundation of everything.
That's very nicely explained, Jennifer. Also, coming to accountability, you were saying how your friends were able to hold you to very high accountability. And you have mentioned in your book, spiritual accountability, that everyday practice that you do questioning yourself. Can you explain more on that, please?
Absolutely. So this is a practice, also a Kabbalistic practice that I was taught, and I call it spiritual accounting. So imagine that you've lived your day, and there's a great part in the Zohar. The Zohar is an ancient spiritual Kabbalistic text that has all of the wisdom in the world hidden in it, but it's hidden in metaphors and secrets. So you have to read it very, very carefully. And they give an example of, I think it was King David in the Zohar, and they say that when you look for your own mistakes every day, nobody's going to be able to trip you. Nobody's going to be able to cause you harm, because if you already know where you've left yourself open to perhaps speaking evil speech, gossiping, causing harm, you're not going to trip and fall because you're going to be aware of it. So the Kabbalistic technique is I start off my evening and I say, how could I have lived today better? Now, there's an important caveat about this. This does not mean judging yourself. It doesn't mean shaming and guilting yourself. It just goes, wow, did I gossip today? Oh, shoot, I did. Was I stubborn? Oof. Yeah, I was kind of stubborn about that little thing. And it's more of an expansive rather than a contractive process. It's like, oh, you're observing yourself through a neutral perspective of going back through your whole day. And so I make a list. I can even share with you, like, for example, last night's list. So I put it, I like to write it on my notes on my phone, but you can physically write it out in your journal, whatever you want. So for example, yesterday, I like to set my weekly intentions on a Sunday, and I didn't do it yet. So I could have set my weekly intentions. I was a little bit stubborn yesterday. I ate an entire piece of tiramisu. I stuck my face in the tiramisu. It was pretty funny. So I could have had a tiny bit less tiramisu, because you know how you feel. It's not, for me, it's not a weight thing. It's just not feeling great afterwards. Let's see here. I could have called my mom earlier. I had told my dad I would call my mom earlier in the day, and I didn't call her until pretty late. And I didn't get a chance to chant yesterday. So, and I also gossiped. So it's nothing that I was judging. It was more like, okay, these are things that if I had it all my way, I would have done differently. Then the next step is to look at, what am I proud of myself for today? What did I do today that I really want to acknowledge myself for? And in fact, one thing you can do if you really want to up the practice is put your right hand on your heart and say, I love and appreciate that you, Vina, or that I, Jennifer Hill, whoever you want to say, did X and Y. So I was proud of myself that I scanned Zohar, I walked 6 miles, I tithed, I meditated 2 times, I practiced French, I laughed, I had fun, I connected with an old friend, I did vocal exercises, I reflected, I was grateful, I did inner child work. So I'm just really, it's kind of finding that balance. And then the last step is, of course, to tie in the 3 things that you're grateful for.
That's very nicely told. Most of the time, we don't give time to appreciate our own selves. We see, okay, what others are doing, whether I am in comparable standard to those people and all. But this definitely helps. And you have also mentioned this exercise will definitely keep us aware. Most of the time, we live unconscious. Like daily routine, similar thing. We don't do something new or we don't acknowledge something new. Even if some good things show up in our life, we just we are closed to all those good things.
Yeah.
So we go by mind chatter and all these things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So coming to that, you have also mentioned about thought filters. About thought filters in your book. Like if you see a thing as good, then it becomes good. If you see a thing as bad, then it becomes bad. That's just only the point of view it matters. Can you emphasize more on that?
Yeah, so when we see something, the idea of filters is we all are walking unconsciously through our lives and we don't even realize our filters. In fact, I was inspired by an African shaman who I first heard give a talk on this about 12 years ago at Agape. I think his name is Ishmael Tete, and I talk about his story in the book. And the African shaman said, I want you to imagine that every day you wake up, it's like you're putting on rose-colored glasses. So say I have glasses here, it's like I'm putting on rose-colored glasses, except instead of having rose-colored glasses, I'm putting on bitterness, resentment, fear, whatever it might be, whatever these glasses are. Now I want to be clear, whatever you're doing, most of us are in a reactive state where we're living our lives unconsciously. What Ishmael Tete said in that sermon I heard him give you a long time ago, he said, what if every morning, and this is why I set my intentions first thing in the morning, you chose to see the world through a certain filter. So imagine that I have these glasses and I'm choosing that no matter what happens, I'm going to see the world that day through a lens of gratitude. Now, one of my favorite stories about this, at the time that I had heard Ishmael Tete say this, I was volunteering at a program in LA. Now it was by LAX and I, started to make money, but $4 here or there still was a lot of money back then. So I was volunteering and I parked across the street. Instead of paying the $4 to park in the building where I could have parked, I parked across the street in the cafe where it said no parking. So I come out of my volunteering for 2 hours and I'm feeling pretty good about myself, that I just help people. And that day I decided to come from a perspective of gratitude. And I went across the street to look for my car. It wasn't there, Vina. My car was not there. And I went inside and I talked to the gentleman who owned the cafe and he pointed to the sign that says, violators will be towed, no parking unless you're a customer. And in that moment, Vina, it would have been so easy to be angry and reactive and judgmental and righteous, right? What I did though, is I was seeing the world through a lens of gratitude. And I was like, oh, what a great lesson in accountability. I knew that the sign was there. I knew I could have spent $4 at the other parking. And it turned out it was $250 to get my car back. I had that much money in my bank account. I could pay for it. And better yet, the place where my car had been towed was walking distance. It was before the time of Uber, so I could just walk right over, pay the $250 and get my car out. It was an expensive lesson in accountability and gratitude, but it was worth it. So my intention, Vina, for everybody out there is number one, to notice that you have filters. Number one, to notice what is the filter that you're wearing in this moment. Number two, to choose the filter, to actively participate in what filter you want to put on for that day. And finally, number three, the goal, and I don't know if any of us will ever get there, but this is something I would love to have happen, to live a no filters life, #no filters. What would it be like to not only see our filters and choose our filters, but one day to live filter free?
Yes, you have also mentioned about how does it get any better than this? About the gratitude that you are explaining about. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, that was a great game by Gary Douglas. Actually, I sold my company right after that. Gary Douglas, co-founder of Access Consciousness, was a guest on my Get Yourself the Job show back in July of 2017. And he said, you know, Jen, every time something a little bit good happens, you say out loud, how does it get any better than this? And your brain will naturally look for ways for it to get better, and so action will follow. And so that whole month, the whole month of August of 2017, I said out loud, how does it get better than this? How does it get better than this? On August 31st, I believe it was, of that month, I got an email from a company who wanted to buy my company out of the blue. I kid you not. They're like, I was not even looking to sell my company. And they're like, hi, we'd like to buy your company. I was like, how does it get any better than this?
That's so cool. Very nice. Yeah. And also you have mentioned about heart talking and soul talking. Would you like to discuss on that?
Well, there's so much. We could spend an hour on heart talking and soul talking. So number one, heart talking is learning to listen to our own hearts. My great teacher, Julian Adler, who was my business coach for about 7 or 8 years, when I first started doing work with him, he said, Jen, what if I could teach you how to listen to your heart? I was like, Jules, who are you? Just shut your mouth. This is BS. I don't believe in any of it. And he said, no, really, what if any question you could ever ask yourself, you could hear a clear yes or no? Now, Veena, I don't know if you want me to share the technique that Jules taught me. I can share it with your viewers right now, but it is a graphic thing that you can't go back on, and it's very powerful. I can teach it to you right now, but it's also very jarring. And I talk about it in the book. I even put a little label that says caution graphic, content. Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So Jules and I are on a phone. He says, I'm going to teach you to talk to your heart. And I said, okay, very skeptically. He said, so Jen, I want you to imagine a basket that is overflowing with puppies and kittens. He said, you like puppies and kittens, right? I'm like, I love
Yes.
puppies and kittens. So I imagine this basket overflowing of puppies and kittens. He says, what does that feel like to you? And for me, Veena, I feel it right here. It's like a flooding warmth up my chest. I just feel so happy and joyful, right? Now, this is where it gets graphic. Please pause, fast forward, whatever you need to do if you're not ready for this, because I know I wasn't when I heard this. And Jules is like, okay, that's a yes in your body. So when you feel that warm, happy, up flooding feeling, that's a yes. Now, I want you to imagine that basket of puppies and kittens being run over by a car. And still, to this day, it's like you're being punched, right? Like for me, I feel like somebody took my heart and pulled it down like into my stomach. It is a terrible, crappy shit, pardon me, not good feeling. So Jules said, that is a no. Now, after doing this with him for 8 or 10 years, it took a lot of practice of yeses, nos, yeses, nos. This is a funny story. About 2 years ago, I was in Vegas. I don't gamble. It's not really my vibe, but I was with a bunch of colleagues who like to gamble. And they said, Jen, please sit down and play blackjack with us. I'm like, I don't even know how to play blackjack, but okay. And it occurred to me, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could tell if I'm going to win or if they're going to win based on the yeses and nos in my hearts, because I use this for every business decision, any important choice I've ever made. I ask yeses and nos of my heart. What I did, Veena, is I sat down at the blackjack table, having maybe played once before in my life, and I could literally tell you whether I was going to win or whether somebody else was going to win at the whole table. And I did this for about 5 or 6 hands, and I was like, I'm not using my powers for evil anymore. I'm done. That was the last time I gambled. But it was just really powerful to know that, and they've actually studied this heart math. I highly, highly, highly recommend people check out what heartmath.org is doing. Dr. Roland McCready, who I've had the pleasure of interviewing a couple of times, they've shared with roulette that the heart can actually tell 30 seconds, I think, before the person is going to win or lose, that the heart will actually tell you whether or not you're going to win or lose. And this is true for many things. So that's heart talking. Now, the last thing is soul talking. Soul talking is ties into a Kabbalistic concept called proactive confrontation. Kabbalistically speaking, Veena, let's say that you and I are about to have a conversation and we're friends and there's some tension between us, right? There's a heavy conversation we have to have. Now, what you want to do from a Kabbalistic standpoint, this is the easy baseline level, is you want to ask a yes or no question. You want to imagine from my heart to Veena's heart, in your heart, not saying anything out loud, you just say, is Veena available to receive what I'm about to share with her, whatever this conversation is? And you're going to get a clear yes or no. You don't have to be psychic. You don't have to have any special powers. We're all interconnected in this holographic universe, and we're all intermingled. So where most of us have pain and suffering in our lives is, number one, we don't pause. Number 2, we don't ask whether or not the person is receptive from our heart to theirs. And number 3, if we get a no, we still ask anyways, despite the fact that we heard a no. So number 1, pause. Number 2, ask if it's a good time or not, or if the person's receptive. And number 3, if you hear a no, wait for better timing. Now, when I started doing this, which I termed soul talking because it morphed into something so much more, Veena, I would be sitting there having a conversation and I would ask simple yes or no questions. And then people's souls would start telling me all sorts of stuff back. Like I share in the book, I was talking to a gentleman in February and we were doing a class together. And I said, oh, do you want to do this advanced class? I asked from his heart to my heart. I asked from our souls. And I got a yes, but that he was having a reservation and it was around money or something. And I got, but what really mattered to him was his sister. Now, I am not psychic. I've never been psychic. I'm not somebody, that's not how I make my living. And I asked him out of the blue, I said, you know, I'm getting a message that maybe there's something important going on with your sister. And he looked at me pale as a ghost. He said, how do you know that? And I said, that's just what I heard. It's something mental illness. He's like, this is impossible. How do you know this? So when we really quiet the noise, this is where all these 101 spiritual practices come in. The more that you can quiet the noise and the static, then all of a sudden you have a clear line between you and another person. And that's where you can begin to create miracles in your life.
That's so beautifully explained, Jennifer. As you are saying, the graphic demonstration, I could relate how we are connected to every other being on this planet, like a holographic universe. We are connected to anything. I could literally feel it in my heart when you're giving the example. It's so profound. The nature of the techniques you have taught, definitely they are very useful at this point of time, as the book title itself is 101 Spiritual Tools for Uncertain Times. Definitely, we do have day in and day out many uncertainties in our world. We don't know how to cope up with them, how to deal with them. And these tools will definitely help us to accelerate our life to a better things, not stuck in some of the things which we don't know of. It's so profound sharing with you today.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to be here with you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We are looking forward for the interview on rest of your books, and also we would love to have even courses if you are ready for them. We would love to host the courses by you, and they will be definitely helpful for our viewers and audience.
Thank you so much, Veena. Well, it's such a pleasure, and I look forward to continuing to collaborate with you and your team over there at Pyramid Times.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Subscribe to the Pyramid Times channel.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was nice talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
Start to end, giving your day 100%. After it all, have you still got the energy to do more?
Yes.
Soy protein and fibers, healthy energy packed in delicious Sofit.
Sofit, healthy energy to do more.
Mind is very simple for me, because if you take away your attention, it just dies. California may be beautiful, but people can be in hell, isn't it? Within themselves, in their experience, in their homes, in their situations, they can create hell for themselves. Everybody must do a little bit of engineering within themselves to see that being peaceful and joyful is not a challenge. Once this happens, your intelligence will function in a completely different way. Namaskaram, every.
Hi, Sadhguru. Thank you for sitting down here. So I want to jump right in, and there's a quote from Yogananda. He says, you can control a mad elephant, you can walk in water and live in fire, but control of the mind is better and more difficult. And I've certainly found that for myself. I spend so much time wrestling with my mind, I hardly have the energy to dance with life. Why is it so hard for us to manage our mind as people?
I have no such problem because I lost it long time ago. When you don't have it, then you don't have to control it, you know. Because it's a very uh, very impaired notion that people think intelligence is somewhere here. This is a living cosmos, it's an intelligent cosmos. We are just tiny, one tiny product, minuscule product. And now we think we have so much intelligence and we have to control it, manipulate it, use it. I have no such issues, I gave it up long time ago. So, mad elephant I wouldn't want to control because I've seen them, what they can do. Mind is very simple for me, because if you take away your attention, it just dies. If you keep your attention and try to control it, that's crazy. So, why is human mind an issue? Your mind is just an antenna, not the source of intelligence. Intelligence is everywhere. Unfortunately, people who are deprived of basic ease in their life have described the source of creation, or they say God is peace. Those who are deprived of love in their life, they say God is love. Those who have fallen in their lives, they say God is compassion. But if you're none of these, but you understand the idea of God has entered human mind only because before you and me came, there was so much creation. We know we didn't make it. So, when we cannot figure who made all this, somebody makes up a simple story, there is one big man sitting up there, who makes all this? Well, today women are arguing, why can't it be a woman? This argument is going on everywhere, different things. I must tell you this. In some of the southern churches, these arguments going on. Why can't God be a woman? As you know, a couple of elections ago you tried to settle it. You know what happened? Last election, why couple? And there are arguments like this. You heard of Idi Amin, the Uganda man? Idi Amin declared God is black. I also agree with him. Because if a white man can have a white God, why can't a black man have a black God? What's the problem? But you know, white people, black people, they have not seen God because only messengers and sons came to these parts of the world. In India, we know God is brown because Indians believe God landed in India himself, not his son, not his messenger, himself 9 times. 9 times he came to India. So Indians, especially Indians who are living outside the country, are very proud of this. God came to our land himself 9 times. So I keep reminding them that is because God wouldn't trust anybody with Indians. He wanted to do the job hands-on. So he himself came 9 times and failed. Failure is obvious. 9 or 10 times you can debate, but failure is obvious. What I'm saying is, the idea of God or a certain source which could be in some human form or animal form or whatever, has essentially come because you've not paid attention to the creation. The idea has come only because you have no explanation for the creation. But if you pay enough attention, we don't know God loves you or not, we don't know whether God is peaceful or not, we don't know whether God is compassionate or not. But if you pay attention to this flower or this leaf or a blade of grass, you can see whoever created this is brilliant, simply no question. Everywhere you see, every atom you see, it's intelligence, intelligence, intelligence. But nobody said God is intelligence. That's the biggest mistake we've made. We said all kinds of things, whatever we need. We say God is wealth because if you are poor. If you are hungry, you say God is food. If you have backache, you'll say God is health. Everybody, whatever they're deprived of, they will make it into that. Leave all these things, just take one piece of creation, take an ant and pay attention to him. You will see it's a most brilliant creation. But we never said God is intelligence. So, this is a living intelligence, everything here, this very cosmos. In this, where do I think I'm intelligent? If you find access to the intelligence there is, you can function in a phenomenal way. But within this bone box, if you think everything that needs to be there is in this, then all you will do is suffer your intelligence. Now you think a mad elephant is easier to handle than your mind, so you must be madder than the mad elephant? I don't know who said that, but for me, my body, my mind is never a problem. It always cooperates, because that's what it's supposed to do. My body and my mind should take instructions from me, only then it's a useful instrument. If it start doing its own things, then it's a nuisance. And this is what is happening to most people, that their mind is the biggest nuisance in the world. They would be better off without a brain. Yes. If you remove half the brain, everybody is going about struggling to be peaceful. You take away half their brain, they will sit here peacefully, very peacefully. So is that the goal I'm asking? There is a possibility that is, if you do not harness that possibility, it becomes a major problem. And you don't know how to harness it because you do not know whether it's a horse or an elephant or a cow or a deer. When you do not know the nature of something, how do you deal with it? Suppose, right now here there's a cup sitting here. In my mind, I think this cup is 3 feet in diameter. Now I will try to lift it like this. How much ever I do, this cup will not come in my hands. Now I think this cup is a serious problem, because first of all, I have no perception what the cup is. Right now, that's all the human problem is. They have no understanding of what their mind is. They're trying to analyze the content. Content is what you picked up, isn't it? Content is what you picked up in terms of life's experiences. This content is of no use. You can distance yourself from it very effortlessly. The problem is the nature of the mind. How does it function? What is the basis of its existence? If you do not comprehend the nature of the mind, well, it feels like a mad elephant, why not? And you believe you can handle a mad elephant? Then you've not seen one, I've seen. One, oh, you don't want to be anywhere there. When an elephant goes mad, when it goes amok, oh, you don't want to be there anywhere in 1 kilometer.
And most of us don't want to be anywhere near our own minds because our minds do act like that. And I think one of the great lessons I heard you talking about it yesterday is the ability to observe the mind. As you said, if you don't understand the mind, how can you use it as the tool that it is? But the distance that's necessary to actually observe it, is that what you credit your ability to let go of the challenging aspects of the mind, the willingness to give some separation and observe your own mind?
See, right now I see you are a well-exercised man, all right? You have strength in your arm. Is it a problem?
No.
Does it punch you once in a while? Hello?
Not usually.
It does, but does it ever punch you,
No.
your right arm? It doesn't. So it's not a problem. So all this strength is not a problem because it doesn't punch you. Similarly, whatever is the nature of the mind, this is also one more dimension like your arm. Your arm is here to do this, that and that. Your mind is here to do that, that and that. But now it punches you. So there must be something wrong with the relationship, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what we need to look at, nothing wrong with the mind. We're not holding it right. When I say holding it right, if I ask you a simple question, would you like your mind to be sharp or blunt?
Sharp.
Sharp. So now I will give you a very sharp knife. very sharp one. I must tell you this. We were trekking in Tibet. So I'm staying in a tent and I'm doing some work, I'm writing something. Somebody else there is cutting an apple with one of those, those new porcelain knives. So another person who is there in the tent says, "Be careful, it's a very sharp knife." This irritates me, because I call something a knife only if it's sharp. If it's a child, if you're 5, 7, 8-year-old child, yes. This is a grown-up man. You don't tell him it's a sharp knife. Then I just look at it and then I continue my work. Again another 2 minutes, again they say, "Be careful, it's a very sharp knife." I said, "Come on, leave him alone." He's a grown-up man, he doesn't know knife is sharp. What is the problem? Is it such a complicated instrument he cannot handle it? He said, "No, Sadhguru, it's a very sharp knife." I said, "God damn it, I call something a knife only if it's sharp. If it's not sharp, throw the damn thing, it's not a knife." And then I continue to work and this person whispers to that person, "Be careful, it's very sharp." Another 2 minutes, that guy cuts his hand. I give up.